Hi folks, welcome to Crisco's Corner. Unfiltered commentary. And that's your truth, the real truth. Please like, share, and subscribe. And as always, thank you for your support. Hi folks, welcome back. Another little change of pace here. Right now, I normally do political commentary, critique, get mad, get upset, get aggravated. And right now, I'm watching a little bit of the candidates final. Those of you that followed my channel for a long time, I did chess videos, buy games, world-class games I thought were interesting. Candidates Final is a tournament that's played amongst 8 players. The winner of this tournament plays Magnus Carlsen, the current world champion from Norway. Now, those of you out there that aren't chess people, it's a lot of money. You get to go into the finals against the world champion. You're guaranteed at least $500,000 minimum. That's a big deal for these guys. Now, granted, they do a pretty good living as it is. The top 50 players in the world probably are making anywhere from $50,000 to $200,000 a year. Not bad for playing chess. But anyway, I digress. As white, one of my favorite players, Alexander Grischuk, they call him Sasha. He's from Russia. He's a really, really, really amazing player. Guy's got nerves of steel. Against Maxime Vichet-Lagrave, they call him MVL. He's from France. He's another really exciting player. This is a hell of a game. Hell of a game. Let's get to it. It's round 11. And we're going to go through the opening here. E4. C5. It's going to be a closed Sicilian. Pawn takes. Queen takes. Knight C6. Queen goes back. Seems like a wasted tempo, but it's really not. For those of you out there that don't know what that means, a wasted tempo means moving the same piece twice fairly quickly, which means you give your opponent an extra move. But this is all what they call theory, book. So we'll just breeze through it. And he goes F4. It's fascinating stuff. I don't like that pin. As you can see, this bishop is hitting the queen, and this pawn is pinned, which means if he moves this pawn, he's going to lose his queen. We'll continue on. Bishop E5. See, he's going after that pawn. You can't take, you can't move it. And he moves the knight here. As you can see, the knight is guarding the pawn now. So now he has 2 pieces guarding the pawn, and he has 2 pieces attacking the pawn. That means it's secure. You got to have 1 more attacker than you do defender in order to win it. We'll go through the next few moves. Castle. Now, this is what I do when I play against a Sicilian, or I used to. When you play E4, that's the pawn in front of the king. I got tired of playing Sicilians, even though games like this are really exciting and really cool to play. I play D4 now. Maybe a little more boring, but it's a little more controlled. Maybe I'll go back someday. Bishop E6. King to B1. They call it a grandmaster move. Because when you castle on this side of the board, this pawn is not guarded by the king. When you castle on the other side of the board, your king is here, and he's guarding the pawns in front, all 3. But you castle on the other side, you're a square short. A5, start bringing your pawns up, go right after the castle king. And A4, just to block it off. So, here we are. Now, as you can see, the computer's on screen. Now, I already analyzed this game with Fritz 15. I put it on 30 minutes for the game. The infinite analysis you see is Stockfish, 1064-bit. And it shows the game with a tiny advantage, less than 1 pawn. That's what that minus means, minus 86. Anything less than 1 is pretty much even. Queen b6, get that queen right over. Now, what you're looking at here is, you got this bishop bearing down. This bishop's bearing down. This knight can come in. This queen is here. This pawn will eventually go here. You're looking at an attack. That's the attack that he's thinking about for black. As white, you're thinking about attacking his king. And here comes the H-pawn, right after the castle king position. Brings the rook over. Now this rook is hitting this file. H5, just keep going, sacrificing the pawn. Now, so why would he do that? Why would he sacrifice that pawn? Well, you're going to see. The knight takes. Now G3. Now what? He sacrificed the pawn in order to give himself what they call an open file. Now his rook is bearing right down the king position, but there's no white pawns. There's none of his own pawns in the way. So he gave up that pawn. As you can see right here on the right, where my cursor is circling, black is 1 pawn up. That's the material. Knight comes in. He's got his own attack to go. But these guys, people don't understand when they play. This is really intense stuff. Think about you young people out there that are still in college or recently out of college. Try taking a 5.5-hour exam that's really, really, really hard. And this is what these guys do every day, every round when they play in a tournament. Now, when I play, I'm a much lower level. I'm only 1,700 player, but you're playing 3 games a day for 2 days. Imagine that. Imagine taking a 2.5, 3-hour test 3 times in 1 day. It's exhausting. That's not counting the fact that whoever wins this tournament goes on and plays for the world championship. Bishop H3. As you can see, he wants this bishop that's bearing down in his position. He wants him gone. And this bishop now here has nowhere to go. So he's basically forced to trade. Now he has a rook there. He's considering doubling up here. And so both rooks are bearing down on the king position. So let's see what Maxime does as black moves the bishop back. Now comes G4. I like this a lot. Even though it shows even on the computer, I think white's got a hell of an attack going. His pawns are storming down. This knight might eventually come here. This knight can come here. It's things are coming. Let's see how black reacts. Knight. Pawn. Just keep pushing. Just keep putting the pressure on. It's just, the pressure. Psychological more than anything. Knight, he puts the knight back to H5. Now, sometimes what they call an exchange sacrifice. You'll take a rook for a bishop or a knight. Then pawn would take. And what this does is it opens up this position here on the king. But he's not quite there yet. F5. There he goes. He's going after the pawn that's protecting the knight. Rook F to D8. Just basically ignores it. And white just continues plowing through at F6. Bishop doesn't have a choice. Has to go back to F8. If the bishop goes back here, he's trapped forever. At least here, he can do some good in this diagonal. And now here comes the knight. Knight G3. Maxime ignores it and goes D5. He wants to open up too. He wants his rooks to be right on here. It's basically a race. Who's going to get to the king first? Pawn takes. Knight takes. Rook takes. H5. Excellent move, but it's the mistake. Let's go back here. Right now, it shows the computer about a point and change, almost 2-point advantage. That opens up things too much. The computer likes E4, H5. I don't like H5, but Maxime is under the gun right now. I think White's attack is really going well here. But he goes H5. Now, those of you who don't play chess that much, White can take this pawn. It's called en passant. And when you're on the 5th rank and a pawn goes by you like that, you can capture it as if it only moved 1 square. But you only can do it on that move only. And Sasha decides not to take it. Computer's giving me a little bit of grief here. Let's hang on. Queen to E2. Now, since he decided not to, he cannot take en passant now. It's only a one-time thing. I probably would have taken it, frankly, just to open up the king. But he decided not to, and these guys are both in the top 10 in the world, so who am I? I'm second-guessing these guys, right? Yeah, okay. But I just like that better. So let's continue on. Computer's giving me kind of a hard time here. Let's go back. H5. Queen. Now, the computer did that. This piece, and this piece are out hitting this white pawn. And it only has 2 defenders. And that's a key center pawn. It opens up everything. Rook to H3. Knight takes pawn. Knight takes. Rook takes. Now he doubles up. Looks pretty hairy. Now, you can see from where my cursor is, there's about a 1.3 advantage for White. That's a pawn and change. But this is pretty hairy. How is White going to break through Black's defenses? Since he did not take en passant earlier, he's going to have to sacrifice something for this pawn. But he has a dark squared bishop. So he can't even trade the bishop for that pawn and open things up. So how is he going to do it? Sacrifice a rook? That's too much. So let's see what he does. Now, Black's got his own plans. King comes up. The king wants to guard this square. You'll see here in a second. We go back. The king wants to guard this square. In case this bishop ever wants to move, that this queen can't get in. King A2. Rook D1. Now he's looking to trade some pieces. Remember, Black's up a pawn. Black has 6 pawns. White has 5, but Black's king is pretty hemmed in, but he looks pretty safe, actually. I don't know how White's going to break through. Rook takes H5. He sacrifices the rook. Let's go back. For those of you out there who don't know the points in chess, a pawn's worth himself 1. A bishop and a knight are both worth roughly 3. A rook is worth 5. A queen is worth 9. So what he's doing is he's sacrificing. Takes. So he sacrificed 5 points and gained 2. But what he did was, look at all the open squares now around Black's king. Not much defense. His bishop, the queen can't come in. The rooks can't come in. This rook can't come over here to help. There's a lot coming on the black king. Even though white has traded a rook for 2 pawns, you see on the computer here, it's only a small advantage for white. Let's see how this goes. Rook to d4. Rook takes a4. He's getting his own tack in here. What to do, what to do? He can't take, because if pawn takes, bishop d5, check, and it's bad news. Very bad news. This bishop is guarding the square. King can't go there. The king is basically doomed after that. But plus, you got to remember, if he does take here, and he checks here, this rook drops for free. So he can't take it. So he moves the king back. Queen of d5 anyway, hitting the rook. So queen to h5. Now it's getting hairy. Now it's getting hairy. What does he do? What does he do? He's up a rook, remember. Black is up a full rook. There's only one way to stop this mating attack, because there's no way he can stop the queen from going here mate. There is no defense. So, queen takes the rook. Queen takes the queen. Now, right now, black has 2 rooks for a queen. Little tiny advantage for black material-wise, but now white's king is very greatly exposed. That queen's a very powerful piece. And this pawn's going to be hard to guard. This pawn is hanging right now. So you can see how it's a small advantage for white. Rook. He's going to try to get his rooks here. Eventually he's going to try to get it. So they're in line. This bishop's the only thing that's stopping him. Bishop takes. Rook takes. Got one of the attacking pawns. Things are looking much better for the black king. Queen takes pawn. Rook d2. Now you're going to say, well, what's a pawn? It's just a pawn. White's up a pawn, no big deal. Well, you're going to see, especially in endgames, one lousy pawn up can be a huge deal, can determine who wins the game. Now, we're on move 37. These guys have been playing their guts out because they've been both on the edge, especially black. He's been under a lot of pressure from the very beginning. And I'll tell you, I don't know how they do it. And Sasha is white. He's what they call a time trouble addict. They're playing right now, I believe it's 2 hours with a 30-second increment. Well, that means every time you move, you add 30 seconds. And he's down to minutes now. They're not even move 40, they get some more time. He's down in minutes, so now he's put double the pressure on himself. His time is almost run out. And those who don't play chess, if your time runs out, whether you're winning or not, you lose. He moves the bishop back to hit the rook. Rook e2. Queen c8. He checks. King comes up. Now he moves the rook here. What he's trying to do is try to win this pawn. Bishop takes a5. What to do, what to do? Rook takes. Queen takes, rook takes. King takes. Now looking on the screen, white is 1 pawn up with about a 2-point advantage. This is really, really tough stuff. How is black going to win this pawn? How is he going to get his king out? Because he's stuck here. And this pawn is going to be marching down the board to become a queen. h7. I didn't care for that. Frankly, the computer says if you move the bishop, it's automatic loss. So maybe he's seeing something that I don't. So in comes the king. King g6. Bishop now is guarding this pawn. And even if black trades this bishop for this pawn and then king takes, the black king is going to be too far away to stop this white pawn. King up, king c4, king e6. It's looking more desperate and desperate for black. Remember that one lousy pawn? Well, here he is. And it's funny. I've heard people say to play chess that, you see the size of a pawn on the board is normal size. And as that pawn gets closer and closer to promoting to a queen, it looks bigger and bigger and bigger, and it really is. B4, basically black is paralyzed. What can he do? He's doomed. Bishop d6, and b5, and he resigned. What can he do? Black go here, maybe? And his king comes up. He comes back to check. The king goes to there. He's going to escort the pawn all the way down. And what's going to have to happen is black's going to have to give up this bishop for this pawn. Now, that means white will have this piece, and this piece against black's king and pawn. And eventually, white will win this black pawn, and then his pawn will go on to queen. So this is where Maxime threw in the towel. It was a hell of a game. It really was. I went kind of fast. So you want to go back a little bit because I don't want to make these videos too long. But there's a tremendous amount of pressure on these guys. Tremendous amount of pressure. And it's the candidates final. It's a 8-man double round robin. What that means, you play everybody twice. So that's 14 rounds. And it's an amazing tournament. World-class players. The American Fabiano Caruana is playing in it. Grischuk, of course. Maxime Vachier-Lagrave. Two of the top Chinese players. Neponachi from Russia, who's currently winning. Anish Giri, who's originally from the Netherlands. He's a top player. These guys are all great players. It's just amazing. It's just truly amazing. It is. Caruana, the American's having a tough time. Caruana was the American that played in the World Championship cycle about a year and a half ago. Of course, COVID, like everything else, screwed all this up. These guys are playing in person in Russia. I'm sure they've been all tested. I noticed the guys that are watching the tournaments, the moderators, are wearing masks. These guys aren't. They probably all had their shots. It's all cool. But they're playing a lot of chess tournaments now at this class level online. And what they do is they go into places they know are secure. That way there's no cheating. In other words, you can't do it at home with a computer and cheat. You'll sit at in a area that's being monitored. So they're playing their tournaments online. And that's one of the great things about chess, that the internet has really exploded chess worldwide. It's the most played game in the world by far. But for guys like me that used to have a chess club, I've just recently sold my business. I had a chess club out back. The internet has killed the chess clubs. You can get your chess fix online. You can choose from thousands and thousands of players for free and play great games. So it's tough for the clubs, but it's great for the game. I go on Lichess. That's lichess.org. It's a great site. You watch world-class players. You can play yourself. You can play in tournaments. And they have about 10 or 12 different chess variants. Rather than go into detail now, you can go on lichess.org. You just need to sign up and get a confirmation email, and you're in. Pick your name if nobody has it. I usually use my personal name, John Cordisco. If I'm ever on there, give me a shout. Or once in a while, I'll use my other name, Councilman John, because I used to be a councilman back in the early 2000s here in upstate New York. So anyway, there it is. It's a hell of a game, and I bet both of these guys a lot. And it was a real struggle. And I like these games that come down like that. They're mammoth struggles. And it's really amazing. And I throw my hat off to both of these guys. Tough break for MVL. Congratulations to Sasha on a game well done. Sasha's a loose cannon, man. You never know what the hell he's going to do. Well, anyway, folks, there it is. One of the games from the FIDE Candidates Final. Until next time, folks, goodbye and good luck.